Hi everyone. So I got my results through the other night from my grade 4 piano exam. I got distinction. Um, was not expecting it really. I was expecting a high merit based on how I did, especially on the oral. I've got a mark form up here on my tablet. Um, but yeah, really happy with how I did. Like I said, pieces 27, 28, 28 out of 30. I have linked I've posted a photo on the community tab on my channel if you want to take a look at the mark form. Um, yeah, pieces went pretty well. They say on the Presto that I made a stumble in the middle. Honestly, that exam was such a blur to me. I can only remember parts, but I don't remember. I don't remember making a mistake, unless I have done, and then I've just recovered really quickly. But happy with that. Billy's song, 20 out of 30. Um, mention here that there was an opportunity for more projection of the melody over the accompanying texture. That is something that I've come across in one of the pieces that I'm learning at the minute. I'm learning Reunion from the film Spirit or Spirited Away. It's the one about the horse. It was the song that my wife walked down the aisle to at our wedding. But in that, there's a couple of like chords in the right hand, but they merge with the melody, and I'm struggling to bring the top note out. So it's just sounding a bit weird. So I think that is something that I really do need to work on. Sort of bringing out the melody in the piece. Um, so I'm sort of glad they've picked up on that because that's one thing that I've struggled with. Um, and then Ninette's Musette, 28 out of 30. One thing we've worked on in lessons is rubato. This is only the second piece that it's the first piece that I've focused on rubato. I did have a bit of a play around with it when I was learning. The battery's low. When I was learning the Schubert Waltz in B minor, which is on the grade 5 syllabus for next year. But when I was learning that, um, I wasn't really focused on the rubato. It was just more going off feel. But they've said it was well judged, but it lacked momentum. Um, so that is something that can be worked on. Now, going on that Schubert Waltz, that is going to be one of my pieces for next year. And from what I've seen on the recordings on Spotify and the performances I've seen on YouTube, um, it's completely different to how I played it when I was learning it earlier this year. They're not using Some of them are not using pedal. It's a lot quicker. It has a completely different feel to it. I don't like it personally, but I think that's because I've gotten so used to playing it a certain way. It just sounds weird. So that's going to be a challenge for next year when I'm doing, because I am picking that. That is one of my pieces for my grade 5 next year. But that is going to be a challenge, taking a piece that I already know and then playing it differently. But it'll be interesting. Yeah, but very happy with how I did on the pieces. Scales and arpeggios, excuse me, 19 out of 21. They said they were fluid and accurate. They've mentioned the slip on F sharp minor. Now, after the exam, I was wondering how lenient or how harshly are they going to mark me for that slip, because in my previous exams, my scales and arpeggios have always gone smoothly, so I've never really had an opportunity to see how harshly they mark your mistakes. Now she asked me, I started on the wrong note, and then I sort of corrected myself as I was ascending the scale. And then once I'd finished, she said, "Do you want to try that again?" And then I played it fine. But it's not really affected me mark. 19 out of 21. I'm not too bothered about that. Like I said, some things you can't prepare for. I mean, it's an exam. It, like it's a pressure situation. Things are gonna go wrong from time to time, and it's good that the examiners appreciate that. So I'm really happy with how I did. There was one thing I noticed though with that they asked me for a lot more scales and arpeggios than they have done in previous exams. Um, I'd say we spent a good couple. It felt like a couple of minutes just on scales and arpeggios, and she was mixing them up as well. So usually I've practiced, and I think in the exam, my previous exams they've gone like sort of in order of the book, but she was mixing them up. She was going from major to minor, back to major. I did both contra motion scales, but I'm really happy with how I performed. Sight reading, 19 out of 21. Again, as I said in the previous video, it went as I suspected. That the actual sight reading in the exam was easier than what I've practiced. Like the one I got in the exam, it was in E minor, so only one sharp, and the left hand part was just staccato chords. Well, not even chords; it was just two notes. And one thing I did do in the exam, the last note of the piece, the right hand, so it was staccato. Left hand was staccato all the way through, and I think the right hand had some bits of staccato going on, but the last note was a minim, and I played it staccato instead. And then once the sight reading was finished, I said to her, I was like, "Oh, I should have played that. I should have held that last note down." I've been told by my teacher not to point out mistakes to the examiner because they will mark me on it. I was hoping my honesty would make them more lenient. I don't know if it worked or not, but I got 19 out of 21, so I'm happy with that. It was more than I expected to get. I was so stressed the past couple of months with my sight reading, trying to get it up to standard. It's one thing that I'm not going to neglect this time around. After not every exam, because grade 1, the turnaround from grade 1 to grade 2, there wasn't that much of a gap between my exams, so it was I didn't really drop on my sight reading. But after my grade 2 exam, it was a couple of months before I started practicing my sight reading again, and then I said after that, "Oh, I'm not going to do that again because I was so stressed." But then again, I left my sight reading another couple of months. Oh, my exam's not for another 9-10 months. I can just leave it. And then the same thing happened. I was like, I'm not going to get this. This isn't going to be ready in time. So one thing I'm doing now, every day, every practice session, 10-15 minutes aside, do some sight reading because it'll benefit me in the long run. I want to get, now I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I want to be at grade 6 sight reading standard by the time I take my grade 5 exam. I want to get ahead so I don't have that stress, because I know I'll get my scales and arpeggios down. I know I'll get my pieces down. I mean the pieces I'm going to be doing for my grade 5 exam, I'm doing Tarantella by Bergmuller. That's pretty much hands together now. It just needs getting up to speed, getting all the articulation correct, getting the dynamics sorted. Like I said, the Waltz in B minor by Schubert, that's a piece of what I already know. So it's just getting to perform it how they want to perform, how they want it performed, getting up to exam standard. So it's really only one more piece that I have to learn My C piece is going to be Jackson Street Blues by Martha Meyer. So all the stuff that I can prepare for, scales, pieces, shouldn't really be a worry. And I'm hoping I can include the sight reading in that if I can get it up, if I can get ahead of the game and get it up to standard early doors, because it'll benefit me. And speaking of things I've neglected, I think it's reflected in the mark form that my oral really needs work. Now, I don't know if they made a mistake in my exam, because the repetition part of the oral test felt longer. The rhythms were more complex, 100% from what I've practiced in the in lesson out of the oral ABRSM oral training book. I'm not sure if they've given me a grade 5 one by mistake, but it definitely felt harder. It felt longer, and to be honest, the sight singing, which is probably my worst attribute in terms of oral, it was the thing I did the best on. That's probably the best sight singing I've done so far, and that's including the stuff I've done in lessons. They did mention a small blemish in the sight singing, but she did play. So the sight singing, it was in the treble clef, and it went C, E, B, C. And as I was singing the E, she played an E, and my voice didn't change, and it sounded to me in tune. I know when they play a note and I get it right, my voice I can feel it vibrating against the note they play on the piano, if that makes sense. So I was thinking to myself, she's playing that note, but I'm singing an E. But I was really happy with how that went. And then it says the observations of the final test were accurate aside from the time and small slips in the clapping. Like I said, the time signature, I had a feeling I'd get that wrong. But again, like the clapping, even the clapping, the rhythm of this, it felt longer and it felt more complex. So that's definitely a thing I need to work on, dedicate more time to the oral. Now, in terms of practicing oral outside of lessons, it's difficult. There's not a lot of resources that I can find to practice oral. But I'm definitely going to try and work harder to get it up to standard for grade 5. But overall, I'm happy. I'm really happy with how it went. Now, in terms of next year, like I said, I'm going to be taking my grade 5 exam next year. Probably next. I'll probably take it around the same time next year. If I am ready by the summer, I'll maybe take it then, but I'm not rushing. I'd rather wait. I'd rather wait a few months and then be sure that I'm ready for it than rush to get it and then not perform at the standard I know I can perform at. But like I say, I'll be doing 2 of my pieces are well, not done, but I'm well ahead, and I want to keep it that way. I want to maintain it and push on. Pieces, next year I really do want to take on challenging pieces. I really want to push myself next year. There's a couple of pieces that I've got on my list that I really want to learn. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, first movement. Mozart's Sonata in C, first movement, K545. I've already started learning that, and in the left hand, I'm hands together at a slow tempo. I'm up to the bottom of the first page, and the left hand is playing semiquavers or demi-semiquavers. I think it's semiquavers. And I'm tensing my hand up. And the last thing you want to do when playing fast notes is tense up, because your hand will just lock up and you won't be able to play fast. But tension is something that I'm continuing to struggle with. I'm currently finishing off Clementi's Sonatina in C, Opus 36, number 1, the first movement of that. I'm getting tension in my right hand now, especially when I'm playing the octaves. Really bad. It's similar to what I'm getting in my left wrist when I was playing Maple Leaf Rag. So I'm hoping I'm going to dedicate a bit more time into Alexander technique next year, because honestly, pain in my wrist when I'm playing, and it's stopping me from playing the pieces that I love. It kills me motivation a little bit, but hopefully I can start to play with less tension. But yes, looking forward to it. I've got a performance in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be playing a dark version of Silent Night. I'm going to try and get that video up in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, looking forward to it. But yes, thanks for watching. Cheers.